Thank you, Trisha. I am so excited about this opportunity, and hopefully Mary will join us. But I think everyone has questions. Anika, you're going to represent every girl. No pressure. Just kidding. But we are going to open this up for questions. So I want our attendees to be thinking, everyone think about what you want to be asking, and you can go ahead and put those in, and we'll have question and answer time afterwards. But Anika, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us, give us a little history about you, or how you got interested in STEM and where you are now. And go ahead and start.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much for having me, Mrs. Berry, and thank you, Mrs. Shannon, for the introduction. I'm Anika. I'm currently a senior at the Texas Academy of Mathematics and Sciences in Denton, Texas. I've been interested in computational biology for almost as long as I can remember. I started getting into it in around 7th grade when I attended a summer science camp. And then since then, I've pursued research opportunities and internships to help me delve into the field more. Right now, I'm in the process of applying to colleges, so I'm looking to pursue a degree in either biomedical engineering, computational biology, or biology with a focus on computer science. So it's a very exciting and, honestly intimidating process. And outside of STEM and science, I do like pursuing dance, art, and then spending time with family and friends.
Awesome. I know I have a few questions just from that introduction, but we will get to those. Mary, welcome.
Hello.
We are so glad to have you join us. Can you give us a little background on yourself and introduce yourself to us?
No problem. I'm Mary Davison. I'm currently a sophomore in high school, and my main STEM interests mainly lie in the field of computer science and artificial intelligence. I do certain research projects outside of school related to those fields. And I would say outside of STEM, I'm a big baker. I love baking different foods and treats. And for my future, I really intend on going into the field of computer science and possibly becoming either a researcher or a software engineer. So that's a little bit about me.
That's awesome. Wow. AI wasn't even something that I even knew about. Well, I'm sure it was around, but it wasn't even a career option back in the day. So I'm curious, and feel free to jump in and answer in whatever order you want to, but what types of STEM experiences have you been part of in the past? And have you felt like you were welcome? Did you belong in STEM? How did your experiences in your younger, years? How was that? I'm curious.
Anika, do you want to go first or?
Oh yeah, sure. Thank you. I'd say like the biggest way I got into STEM was definitely through research. I started independently doing computational biology projects on the computational drug discovery pipeline in around 7th and 8th grade. And since then, I've pursued internships in wet lab research and computational research at the University of North Texas. And I've always felt really welcomed in the field of STEM, especially where I'm around. I feel like there's a lot of representation for women. There's a lot of media that's promoted that supports women in STEM and girls in STEM. I currently go to a STEM magnet school, which also helps me pursue, research and opportunities in STEM. I'd say like the biggest thing that has helped me pursue opportunities in STEM is just like the constant representation and inspirations and role models that my school like provides through like panels and discussions. My school is very open to like promoting dialogue about women in STEM and making sure our opinions and feelings, whatever they may be, feel validated, which has really helped me. At my own school, I'm the president of the Society of Women Engineers, and something that I personally do to help make sure that everyone at my school, especially the girls in engineering, feel representative is this year, I opened up a SWE newsletter for my school. So I make sure to recognize the students that have pursued opportunities in like research or engineering and make sure that they feel recognized, especially being a girl in a more underrepresented field.
That's fantastic. Mary?
I personally grew up in a school that didn't really have a lot of STEM opportunities. I think we had 1 to 2 computer science classes. And in those classes, I think, 1 out of 2 girls in the entire class of, I think, 25 people. And that's sort of an experience that carried throughout my life. In different internships I've had, I've sort of recognized that I've been one of the only girls in that in the field. And from internships to hackathons to different competitions in my school, that's sort of been an experience that has sort of grown. And so to sort of combat that, I founded the Girls Who Code Club in my school. So we're really trying to gain interest in the field of computer science from girls who may have never even felt like it was a choice to major in computer science or learn about coding. So that would be a really integral, central experience, STEM experience that I've faced in my life. So, yeah.
So you're changing it for the next group of girls at your school. That is amazing. I love that. Okay, so it sounds like you both had to seek out your own opportunities. Did you have anyone help you find those?
I I make a joke with some of my friends that Google will always be your best friend. So it really was from a Google search, so like computer science opportunities for high schoolers or how to get into research. I don't think I ever really had someone that's telling me how to do this. So I would say reach out. Reach out.
I completely agree with Mary. Google will be your best friend, especially like so many people are posting about all the opportunities that are available for high schoolers. So I definitely recommend looking over there. But I also want to add on to that and say you shouldn't be afraid to ask questions to people who may be in the field. I know personally, if I'm interested in something and I like know someone who has been involved in that field in the past, I'm not afraid to like go up to them and ask them what they recommend that I do to get involved in the field. I know sometimes it can be intimidating, especially being like a younger person, but I think it's very important that you make sure to like go for those opportunities and network if you have to.
Awesome. What I'm hearing you say is Google is your best friend. Go ask for help. Don't be afraid to. But if I was, as one of our program directors here on the call, I'm thinking about search words. So you told me a few of them. What are your top search words that you searched for when you're looking for a program in your area? I'm curious.
Well, personally for me, I just really like to search like high school opportunities or computer science opportunities for high schoolers. Or also I like to go on LinkedIn and sort of look at different opportunities that other people my age have done, and that's really what I tend to search for.
Yeah, for me, I kind of go with the same thing. If you're interested in summer programs, which is kind of a big thing for students who are interested in STEM and research, you'd search up like high school opportunities, summer research opportunities. Or if you're interested in, just cold emailing professors from a certain university and you want to work with them, I definitely just recommend going onto their website and like seeing what types of research they do, and then seeing if you're interested in that type of stuff.
I love that. Thank you. That was my marketing. I had to put my marketing hat on so we can get more girls like you in our programs. So what advice would you give to educators and advocates who are trying, to get more girls like you interested in STEM majors in colleges and career paths?
Do you want to go
Oh,
first?
yeah, sure. I'd say make sure that the girls who are interested in STEM feel validated and make sure that there are role models that they can look up to and inspirations. Something that I do in my own school is I host panels with professionals in engineering, especially like girls in engineering, so that people have role models that they can look up to. I know one of my friends is really interested in aerospace engineering, and then one of the things that makes her a little worried about going into the field is that, there's such a big gender disparity in aerospace engineering, especially compared to other fields like CS and just computational fields. So I think it's very important that we make sure that girls have role models to look up to. They have communities that they feel that they can, their opinions, even like negative opinions, feel validated.
As for advice, I would mainly say highlight diversity in STEM and also give like concrete examples of women these girls can see themselves in. So growing up, I personally, I was a big Ada Lovelace nerd because she really broke down numerous barriers for women in STEM. So she was a major role model for me. So using role models as a way for girls to sort of see themselves in them and see STEM as a field that they can sort of work in is what a major piece of advice I would give.
And what should we stop doing? Like, what is annoying and what is not working, in your opinion?
I need some time to think. So, I mean, I'll hand it over to
That's
you if you
okay.
want to say anything.
I could think of a few things we should stop doing, but that's just me.
For things I think we should stop doing, I've always been a big thing on like positivity. So I would say stop harping on the negative and like harping on the fact that stop we should try more to get more girls into the field rather than talking so much about how there are less girls. So
Mhm.
actively working towards getting more women. We should try to move our attention to actively working towards getting more women in the field rather than continuing to talk about how all the men are taking over the STEM fields in a way. So that was something I would say.
I love that. I think I'll just talk about one of my experiences that I find really annoying. I personally have been participating in science fairs for, I mean, the past like 6 years, and it's been such an amazing experience. I've met so many amazing people, but I mean, something that I noticed in science fairs is that a lot of people tend to be really judgy about other people's projects. I mean, we're all at different parts in our lives and our STEM experiences and our learning experiences. So I don't think there should be any judgment in a learning environment, especially given like the gender disparity. So whether a girl is in like a very advanced part of her like STEM experience or whether she's just a beginner, there should be no judgment. We should always be like open to learning.
Oh, I love that. Y'all are so wise. This is great. Okay, we have one more question for you, and then we have a few minutes to open it up for anyone in the audience that wants to ask questions. And I'm actually going to have you just jump in and raise your hand and ask questions because
I wanted
yes,
I
go ahead.
wanted to add something to that. I think an overemphasis on competition because I feel like since there's not as much girls, that there tends to be like a competitive factor that, oh, I have to be better than her since I'm the only other girl. So I think stopping an overemphasis on having to compete with other girls and instead moving towards like collaborating would be something I would say we should stop. Like
I love
Texas Girls
that.
Collaborative.
Right? National Girls Collaborative, Texas Girls Collaborative. It's all about working with each other, right? That's amazing. Okay, so what is next for you in your STEM journey? You kind of mentioned it briefly. Tell us again, and what are you excited about and maybe the impact you may be able to have with your STEM education?
I can start.
Mhm.
So right now I'm currently a senior in high school, so I'm going through like all the college application process, which has been very stressful. But I'm currently applying to programs that allow me to pursue computational biology, and as I kind of mentioned before, biomedical engineering, something between the intersection between like life sciences and computer science. And in the future, something that I'm really interested in is creating a change in the pharmaceutical industry, especially with so much like trial and error going on in the healthcare industry and like assigning pharmaceuticals to patients. I think it's really important to integrate personalized medicine and making sure that therapeutic strategies and also like therapies in general are very tailored to an individual patient. So that's something that I'm interested in combating through like the learning that I pursue in college and university.
Oh, wow. You're going to make a huge difference. That is so needed. I love
Thank you for
that.
the words.
Right, Mary?
I think for me, it's just continual learning. I'm excited to just continue learning in fields I'm interested in, and I currently teach a lot of little kids over Zoom in Nigeria and in Houston as well how to code. So definitely continuing that. I'm currently a sophomore, so I'm just trying to explore other fields related to computer science and just really explore all the different fields and options available to me.
So your Girls Who Code program actually is out of the country too. Like you're doing an international.
No, so that's
Oh,
personally for me
oh, that's
because
just you. Okay.
yeah, because I immigrated from Lagos, Nigeria in 2017 to Houston, Texas. So I realized that like growing up, I never really had a lot of computer science classes. And it was when I moved to Houston that I found out that I really liked coding in my computer science classes in middle school. So that's something I do over Zoom to like relatives and like little kids because my aunt teaches in Nigeria. She teaches in elementary school. So I asked if I could help out.
That is amazing. You're a mentor and teacher across the world. That's so cool. I love that. And it really goes to show that, with Google and Zoom, you can do anything you want to do, it sounds like. Any questions from our attendees here today? Just raise your hand and Oh, Trisha, you can ask your question.
I had to write it while I was thinking it. So I'm just curious about like that physical environment. So many of our programs that we do for students, high school students, younger students, we're in a physical space. And sometimes we have the capacity to do something with that space and sometimes we don't. But there's probably a lot of things that we could think about to make it more welcoming, make it be a space where students feel like they belong. If it's even a place that maybe you've never been to before, if you can think back on your experiences, is there anything that kind of stands out for you that we could maybe think about when we're crafting and creating those spaces for students?
Are we talking about like a classroom environment? All right. I'd say like
a classroom, a camp, any of those kind of places
Okay.
you might walk into, a gym, STEM night.
Okay, got it. When I like was in middle school, one thing that my teachers did that I really appreciated was they had us like all our tables and desks separated into groups, and then the teacher would like come over to each table and group and make sure that each person received personalized feedback and guidance on like whatever project or assignment that we completed. So I think it's important that we make sure that girls and just people in general receive very personalized guidance, especially when they're in these like pivotal like parts of their learning experience in like middle school and high school. So I think, I mean, that can be like recreated in a physical environment just by like separating like the students into like groups, and then also like trying to enforce like collaboration by making sure that they're in like a group setting.
I love everything Anika just said, but I would also say promote collaboration, like you said, so to sort of foster a sense of community. And also, I think I talked about this recently, but also harp on diversity and the fact and sort of depict a diverse range of individuals in various fields if this is a STEM class per se. But I guess you could possibly like feature stories or like profiles of different people just so like students can see themselves in the different people you showcase, because I think if you don't see yourself in someone that's being taught, it can be really hard to sort of gain an interest in it in a way.
I love that. And you're actually helping with that too, right? Helping over Zoom do that. Okay, any other questions? We have time for, it looks like probably one or two more. Don't be shy. We have brave girls right here, young women that are giving us their time. All right, everyone's being shy. It's okay. I'm curious, Anika, if you had any challenges because of your age trying to get some of those research jobs and the professors to work with you, or if there were any, and same with you, Mary, if you've had any challenges, has anyone ever said you're too young to do any of the things you've done?
Many times. I mean, I initially started research independently, so I never had to reach out to a mentor, but around 8th grade or 9th grade, I realized that I also wanted to translate all like the computational knowledge that I had to a wet lab environment. And that was something that I could do by myself. So I started cold emailing professors, starting at the UT Southwestern school that's right next to me. And I got almost like 15 no's. I mean, being a 9th grader, I had no experience at all, but I was really willing to learn. But of course, I mean, like it makes sense why they didn't want to like put their attention and time into like someone who was a little bit less experienced. But I think it's important to like keep going back and making sure that you're continuing to apply to these opportunities and not getting deterred into like going into these fields just because people say no to you, because that's something that's completely inevitable. I think like the first time I started research in like a wet lab environment at university under a mentor was in 10th grade. And that was after I'd received, I'd say like over 20 no's. But it was just that one yes that makes it possible.
You just kept going, right? It just takes one yes. I love that. Mary, how about you?
Definitely the same experience, because I know in a lot of research labs they require you to sort of already have a degree or be in college. So that's been really hard. And a way I pivoted was just sort of researching different high school programs. So like high school research programs specifically for high schoolers. And that's sort of helped me because I know there wouldn't be any opportunities for me elsewise. So, but it definitely takes one yes. You can definitely keep on emailing.
All right. And we have some representatives from colleges here. Maybe they'll create more opportunities for high schoolers. Robin, do you want to ask your question?
Sure. I tried my best to word it in the chat, but I'll kind of just say it, and then if I need to clarify anything, let me know. So if we are running a camp or a program that is co-ed, meaning that we accept all genders, how can we then help create a welcoming environment for all participants?
I think I said this before, but mainly I think you can try promoting collaboration between the boys and the girls, and in a way show how that can mimic real life. So, and show how in different organizations, there's going to be a lot of times where you're going to have to work with men or work with women. So sort of try to mimic our world today by promoting collaboration in like groups. I think that would sort of be a way to make it more welcoming.
I totally agree with Mary. And then I'd also like to add on to that by saying, maybe introducing volunteers that are closer in age to the students. So for example, when I was in, I think like 9th or 10th grade, I volunteered for a summer science camp for elementary school students and middle school students. And I felt like I was able to better connect to the students, and they were like able to better connect to me just because I was closer in age to them, and they were able to like connect to like my experiences, and I was able to like validate theirs because that was something that more recently experienced, rather than just having like very old mentors for like or just like a bigger age gap between like the mentors and the mentees.
Love that. And we have, let's see, Allison, do you want to ask your question?
Yeah, so do you have any ideas that would help recruit high school students to come to summer programs, especially those that help take care of younger siblings or that work a summer job? We have trouble with that, and I just wanted to get your feedback on what might motivate them to come to some of the things that we offer. Thank you.
Oh yeah, go ahead, Mary.
For getting high schoolers to come, I would definitely say reach out to schools, and if you can possibly talk to them on coming to the programs, that would be a great way, because I know for my school there was a UT Women in Computer Science program, and a representative talked to our computer science teacher, and then he talked to all the computer science students and gave us flyers, and that was really great. So trying to reach out to schools would be a great way to get more people to come.
Nice. Okay, Trisha, do we have time for one more question? Or are we going to get unspotlighted? Okay, one more question. And let's see, Abby.
Yeah, so my question is there any resources that you think that is missing in your ability to grow your STEM journey? So is there anything like you're like, man, I really wish that they had this, or in your Google searches, is there anything that's missing?
Personally, I didn't know to look out for STEM opportunities, and I didn't know like a lot of STEM opportunities existed until later onwards in high school. I didn't really have an older sibling who had already gone through like the STEM process to guide me. I didn't really have any mentors in my area that I could reach out to or knew to reach out to. So I think making sure that schools promote STEM opportunities and let people know that they can Google search these opportunities and there are opportunities for them is good to do at a younger age, like maybe middle school. I think like getting involved later made it harder for me to explore more before I applied to colleges. And that's something that I wish I had done sooner.
Yeah, I would also say like guidance. Sometimes I wish I sort of had like a mentor in a way that can sort of help me in different projects. And that's something that's sort of been missing. So I guess mentorship programs would be great too. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Takeaways that I got were Google is your best friend. Those, keywords, Trisha captured them. Collaboration is the most important thing. Near peer volunteers, and it only takes one yes. So y'all are inspiring us too. So thank you very much. And mentors are important. Amazing job. Thank you for taking time to be with us today.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you both. Thank you. And thank you, Julie, for jumping in and facilitating the panel. And thanks to everyone for throwing in some questions there. Y'all were amazing, and it's important to have that youth voice in the things that we do. So hopefully everyone that's here on the call can take something away from that and implement in our programs. I know I was taking some notes there and trying to share some things with folks. So thank you all. Thank you. Thank you. We are going to flip now over to our last session of the day. And that, Julie, I don't know how to unspotlight you. You're going to be spotlighted forever. Oh, here, I found it. There you go. Relieving Julie from her spotlight duties. I'm excited to welcome to our spotlight stage Dawn Davies. Dawn is going to help get us all inspired and excited all about the eclipse that is coming up. So I am going to spotlight Dawn. There she is, and I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for having me. I am so excited to be able to talk to you about the eclipse. My name is Dawn Davies. I work for Hill Country Alliance. We're a nonprofit conservation organization located in Central Texas, and I predominantly work in night sky preservation. So I work with a lot of communities, volunteers, organizations in combating light pollution. However, I'm also an amateur astronomer and astronomy and space science educator. So I've got a very passionate about eclipses. I saw my first one in 2017 in Casper, Wyoming, and was in San Antonio for this last October annular eclipse, and have just become what they refer to as an eclipse enthusiast. Most likely will become an eclipse chaser myself after this one coming up in April. So let me go ahead and share my screen, and hopefully I'll be successful with that. Let's see. And all right, can you all see it? Okay, thank you for the thumbs up. I appreciate that. All right, so first off, I want you to just kind of take a moment, and for those of you who maybe haven't experienced a solar eclipse or total solar eclipse before, you are going to experience a full sensory opportunity. Imagine it starts getting darker and darker, things quiet down, the temperature gets cooler, you stop hearing birds and crickets. You're going to start seeing shadows moving across the ground in front of you. And you are going to experience something that is occurring on Earth, but is very unearthly. It is a very unique opportunity. It is not rare in the sense of it doesn't happen. Total solar eclipses happen every 18 months somewhere on this planet. But what is rare is for you to be able to live somewhere where you don't have to travel to see one. So pretty remarkable. We have them in a very unique manner. So they occur because of how our Earth circles the sun, but they don't occur every single time the Earth circles the sun. They don't occur every single month because of the arrangement that we have with our moon. So it is on this angle here. You can see my cursor, just off by about 5 degrees or so. And as such, it means that they only occur when the Earth and the moon line up just precisely. We have total solar eclipses when the Earth is at its closest approach, perigee, when it's in new moon form, and they're farther apart at apogee from what we experience with the annular eclipse. It means the moon is a little bit further away from us, so it doesn't completely cover the sun. But it is unique in the fact that the size of the moon to the size of the sun, the distance of the moon from us versus the distance of the sun from us is exactly a 1 to 400 time ratio. We are the only planet in our solar system that gets to experience this. And we will for about another, I believe it's 6 million years or so. As the moon slowly moves away from us, it will become harder and harder, much outside of our lifetime, to experience these. But they are rare in a sense that you get the opportunity to observe one here in Central Texas and throughout various parts of Texas. So we have the total eclipse and the annular eclipse, as I mentioned, occurring depending on where the moon is at its distance from us and in its alignment with the Earth and the sun. So give you a little bit of history. So we estimate that for over 3,000 years, civilization has been capable of predicting eclipses in a sense. We have a couple of very early depictions through the Mayan long count calendar. They were able to calculate eclipses that had possibly occurred in the past or were going to occur in the future. The Ugarit template, which is from what is now known as the coast of Syria, was believed to have documented eclipses that were going to occur within the area. That is the most physical representation we have of eclipse documentation. It is possible that the eclipse of Thales in 585 BCE was also, again, a predicted eclipse, but we know for certain documentation was most prevalent in 1715, Halley's eclipse. If you've heard of Halley's comet, then you've heard of Edmund Halley, who documented the eclipse. But what I have found the most fascinating as I kind of do a deep dive into what they refer to as umbrophiles, so eclipse chasers, is just how many women in the early 1800s through the early 1900s were scientists, were eclipse chasers. So Mansfield and Mitchell were two of the early female eclipse chasers, and they actually observed the eclipses from as far away as the transatlantic eclipse. So they were actually looking at the spectroscopy of the sun, which is phenomenal because, you know, spectroscopy is a fairly new science in a grand scheme of things. And we're learning just more and more as we get into a lot of science with, for instance, the Hubble telescope and so forth. Mabel Loomis Todd, it was a 17th century writer, an editor, and an avid eclipse chaser. And she actually traveled to Japan in 1887 to observe the eclipse and has since wrote 2 books about solar observing and also science predictions of eclipses, both past and present. Another one who was an author who wrote a book called Chasing Eclipses, the total eclipses of 1905, 1914, and 1925 was Rebecca Jocelyn, who was an American writer and actually a friend of Mabel Todd's as well. Astrophysicist and astronomer, British astrophysicist and astronomer Cecilia Payne-Gaposchkin. She actually observed her first eclipse in Africa in 1919. So again, most of these situations are where astronomers and enthusiasts have had to travel long distances to observe these. And even as far as 1910, Annie Louise Virginia Dowell, who went to Australia, she was actually the first Australian woman to have her observations officially documented. Campbell Chant, Campbell Chant Evershed. This was the first female expedition where these 5 females were accompanying their husbands and fathers, but actually they were all scientists in their own right who documented the eclipses of 1922. 1972 is actually our first, what we think is the first actual ship expedition that took about 835 passengers to observe the eclipse in the center of the Atlantic Ocean. So pretty astronomically surprising. We do have a lot of cruises. Cruises become very popular for eclipse chasers all over the world. My personal, I'd say, guru, mentor, amazing eclipse chaser in her own right, Kate Russo, who is from Australia. She actually just observed her 14th eclipse here in the Central Texas area. She's written a book about eclipse chasing. She also helps to actually educate communities as well to prepare for eclipses. So a long history of eclipses and especially long history of women's roles in eclipses. So for those of you who have observed an eclipse before and who are preparing to observe an eclipse, consider yourself an eclipse chaser, consider yourself a female eclipse chaser. You know, this is a very exciting time to be alive and involved. And one of the reasons why this is so crucial, I feel, is if you look at just the number of total solar eclipses we had that were viewable from the US in the 20th century, you will see one thing missing from all of these, is that none of them were viewable from Texas. And it isn't until the 21st century that you see Texas cropping up. The first one for this current century will be next April. After that, you'll have to wait till 2045 to observe one. And you have to be in the very northernmost, I think northeasternmost portion of the panhandle to observe it. 2052 and 2078, you have to be in the southernmost tip of Texas, down in South Padre area. We are not going to see another eclipse crossing Texas in this capacity until beyond the year 3000. So now is the time to observe it. Now is the time to take advantage, unless you plan on traveling extensively to foreign countries, to Egypt, to Australia, to view the upcoming eclipses in the years following. So this one is crossing the United States. It's also crossing Mexico and Canada. Unlike the annular eclipse, where Hawaii was not on the path at all, or in even partial eclipse, every single state in the US, every single province in Canada, and all of Central America, and even a little bit of South America will get to experience this in some capacity. It won't necessarily be total, but it will be some form of partial eclipse. So this is a very all-encompassing event. For those of you who may not be familiar, the best place to be is closest to the center line. That's going to be your maximum amount of totality. So that's the amount of sun that is covered by the moon. Within those partiality zones, you can be there. Your totality time will diminish slightly the further you get away from the center line. But if you are on either side, the outside of those partiality zones, you're going to get 99.9% or considerably less. My favorite analogy coming out of a recent American Astronomical Society lecture about eclipse preparation was that is the equivalent of putting your kids in a car, driving to Orlando, Florida, getting to the gate of Disney World, and then turning back around and going home. What's the point? If you're going to observe this eclipse, get on the path of totality. One of the things I actually want to read, this was a wonderful line from Mabel Loomis Todd's first book on total eclipse of the sun. And she wrote, "I doubt if the effect of witnessing a total eclipse ever quite passes away. The impression is singularly vivid and quieting for days and can never be wholly lost." And I love that, because my first eclipse, like I said, was in 2017, and it forever changed me. It is not something that occurs regularly that we think, oh, it's an eclipse. I've been there, done that. It is a singularly unique event. And for everyone, it's something different. So it might be something spiritual. It might be something religious. But one of the things that I love about this particular upcoming eclipse is how unifying it is to think that every single person in North America is going to get to experience this in some form or another, and relatively all at the same time. I mean, it's an event that, has no religious borders. It has no language barriers. There's no obstruction to observing this event, regardless of who you are. I mean, the only thing that really limits you is where you are. So part of this, as I mentioned before, kind of looking at that video in the very beginning, is just how singularly sensory it is. So we go through these 4 points of contact. So the first contact is that partial beginning where the moon starts covering the sun. Moving into second and third contact, that's your point of totality. So that's when you take the glasses off. Everything leading up to totality and after totality, have those glasses on. That is a huge safety component. There you go. I like it. I like it. Julie's putting your glasses on. Excellent. But if you have those glasses off and you're in the path of totality and you have them on during totality, you're not going to see squat. So make sure that you have your timings down. And it's not just the period of totality. So in the United States for this eclipse, the maximum period of totality is 4 minutes and 26 seconds. Leading up to that, we're talking about almost a little over an hour on each side of totality. So again, observe how light and shadow changes. It's drastic. I remember at the annular eclipse, even though we weren't seeing all of a full total eclipse, halfway through, those of us kind of just stopped and, took our glasses off and looked around, because the color changes, the feeling changes, it gets quiet. Animals stop moving. They think, oh, it's time to go eat. It's time to go bed down. The temperature drops from 15 to 20 degrees during a total eclipse. If only these things occurred more in the Texas summer, I think we'd be much more enticed to experience them. Shadow beads come across the ground right before totality. We're even not really sure how they happen, but we know that it's the shadow of the moon crossing the surface. Moments before totality, you get what's called Bailey's beads, and that's the sun that's actually piercing through the ridges of the surface of the moon. And it's like these little dotted elements along the outside. And then right before totality, you get the Bailey area, you get the diamond ring, and that's that bright stunning effect in this third little graphic here. But all the while leading up to it, all the while leading after it, these amazing sensory experiences. And one that I think is just truly phenomenal is 360 degrees of sunset fully around you. It's just unreal. So here's where we're going to be experiencing it. A lot of major cities and a lot of small communities on the path of totality, which is much different from 2017. In 2017, the largest community that experienced the eclipse was Nashville, Tennessee. They've got a population of about 300,000 people. We're looking at San Antonio, Austin, Dallas-Fort Worth area, some of the largest cities in the country. We estimate between about 32 million people live in this nation on the path of totality. So 1/10 of our nation population will not have to travel, but that does mean 90% will. So we do anticipate a lot of folks coming here into the Hill Country. Just to give you an idea of what that looks like, these are sort of the major communities that are on that path and roughly what they can be expecting as far as the duration of totality. So again, as high as 4 minutes, 25 and 26 seconds. If you're on that very edge in places like San Antonio or Austin, you'll get 30 seconds. Still better than turning around and heading back home instead of going to Disney World. So part of this whole experience is just the various many ways to view it, to engage, to be a part of it, to experience it. There are direct and indirect options. So as Julie was sporting earlier, there's solar glasses, using solar cards, very specifically number 14 welder's glass. All the kinds of viewers that are out there are great ways to observe the eclipse directly, as long as you make sure that your equipment is certified ISO and ideally CE, which is the European certification. But there are so many other indirect ways. So for those of you who have observed eclipses before, or even observed the annular eclipse, I think looking at the light coming through the leaves and branches of trees is just glittering on the ground. NASA and various organizations have put together these great punch cards that are available that show you how looking through even various shapes like triangles, squares, and circles still produces the same crescent shape on the ground, because our sun and its vast distance away from us is a circle, ultimately a sphere. So it's really incredible to look at these various options: pasta spoons, slotted spoons. My favorite by far, hands down, a Ritz cracker. Anything with any kind of little opening through it. You can even take your hands and make little hash marks with them, and they will still produce crescents on the ground. There are just so many phenomenal ways to experience this. So break out your colanders. I highly suggest buying one if you don't have one already. I'm kind of excited to see how much of a run there is on pasta calendars and salad calendars leading up to this eclipse, because it's such a great way to go about observing it. And then, of course, there's just the solar cycles in general. So we record and process data and track solar eclipses based on the Saros cycles. And what those are ultimately, without going into too much technical data, it's pretty much a cycle of which the sun moves through its processes and eclipses occur based on it coming back around to its exact place within our solar system, exactly where the Earth was and where the moon was. So we're in this cycle 25. We're also in working up towards what's called solar maximum. So the sun goes through a life cycle of activity every about 11 years. And actually we were in what's called solar minimum back in 2017. So not a lot of activity, a very bare, in some cases, bald looking sun. But if you have the ability to look through a telescope or a pair of binoculars, and see if they show up well, with solar filters on them, leading up to the eclipse, even now, there's so much activity going on. There's so many sunspots, so many solar flares and prominences. It's a very highly active time for the sun, and it's a great opportunity to take advantage of this phenomena by observing the sun and getting a little bit more familiar with our star that pretty much is our reason for existence, or at least one of our highly needed reasons for existence. So as I mentioned, telescopes through various types of filters. White light will just give you a very soft yellow appearance. If you get into something highly more technical, like a hydrogen alpha filter telescope, which narrows down and only gives you that spectrum of hydrogen alpha, the sun will appear very red. This is great for observing prominences and flares. The white light filters are great for observing sunspot details. Even using appropriate and certified adapters for your phones or for your cameras is another great way to document it and observe this eclipse. But If you want to get into a lot more technical things, the availability of accessible elements and devices for this Eclipse is just staggering. So the light sound device is this amazing device that was collaborated upon and created by scientists and individuals at Harvard that sonifies the solar eclipse and the sun experience for the blind and low visually impaired. Getting a feel for eclipses was actually first put out by NASA in 2017, and it's being put out again for 2023 annular eclipse this last few months, and for the 2024, which is a very tactile and braille-oriented handbook for learning about the eclipse. And then Eclipse Soundscapes is a way to both experience and sonify and store data. And it's an opportunity for you to submit that data to the team and also provide your sensory experience and observations of the eclipse. If you want to get involved in citizen science, there are a whole lot of opportunities as well. Options from Sunseeker, where you are asked to just make your observations. SciStarter is a great opportunity. I think they've got 13 different citizen science programs you can participate that are solar related. Citizen Kate is another great opportunity. These are all areas where you can get involved, from something as simple as just downloading an app and recording and taking pictures of your observations, to obtaining devices and recording the data. Globe Observer, if you're familiar with the Globe program, which is in a lot of our school systems, which is engaging students to research and record observations on cloud formation, temperature, precipitation. They're looking for that kind of information in tangent with the eclipse occurring. Ham radio, ham sci is an opportunity to work with ham radio specialists and amateur ham radio operators to do research and record data specific to the ionosphere of the sun. So a lot of great opportunities there for citizen science. If you're an educator or just an enthusiast like me, there's things like the Eclipse Ambassador Program, which is a NASA partner ambassadorship program with NASA and the Astronomy Society of the Pacific. So they are looking for both astronomers or eclipse enthusiasts and undergraduate students to partner with them to get folks to be more present in the community and do more outreach to youth, to underserved areas, to really get this information in the hands of those that may not have it readily accessible to them. SEAL is another great program, the Solar Eclipse Activities for Libraries. They're looking for SEAL ambassadors. So again, enthusiasts, educators, to connect with their libraries to help educate the public. The ASP Eclipse Stars is specifically for educators getting their hands on a lot more accessible educational materials. So there are more programs than this. These are just kind of some of the more relevant ones, the ones that are easy. And again, with the citizen science ones, those range from, kids being able to submit drawings or just record their data to folks that want to be a lot more technical. It's a huge range of opportunities and options. We have an Eclipse portal within Hill Country Alliance that we've put together to mainly work within our Eclipse team. We have about 600 folks that are involved and have been involved for the past 2.5 years on preparing the Central Texas and Hill Country area to get ready for the eclipses. So we convene quarterly roundtable meetings, and we have convened bi-weekly lunch and learns, educating folks on everything from managing, emergency safety, and from educators. We've actually, one of our most recent speakers was Katie Rainey, who's the interpretive manager for Texas Parks and Wildlife. And she has put together a wonderful collection of education materials and opportunities for folks to better engage the eclipses, because we have 33 Texas state parks on the path of totality in April, which is phenomenal. We also are in the process of updating a lot of our resources. So everything from how to create a sun funnel, how to model the universe, how to model the eclipses in the universe, things like how to make a sundial and tell time with the sun, to a great yardstick experiment, which models and helps you kind of capture the sunlight and try to get it so where that the moon, which is that tiny little ball you can see at the top, casts a shadow on our Earth, which is right down here at the bottom. And it's harder than it looks. So imagine how hard it is for the universe to do this every 18 months or so. Our team is across 23 counties, but of course, we've got a lot more folks that are engaged outside of the area, both in Texas and surrounding states. This just gives you an idea of the folks and communities we've been working with, and all of them, if they have Eclipse websites, have information and resources, we do provide as many links as we can on our website and are constantly adding more data, resources, documents, handouts. We've got a multi-page document that just is a glossary of solar terms to familiarize with some that you may not be too aware of. And then, of course, the American Astronomical Society. If you remember any any organization, the American Astronomical Society has a multitude of resources, from videos, available photos, how-to, safety practices, vetted eyeglass vendors, and of course, task forces, both for informal and formal education to help prepare folks for the eclipse. So I know it's a great deal of data. These are upcoming events leading up to the eclipse, including our lunch and learns and our quarterly roundtable meetings. So I'll try to make sure to get as much information over to Tricia to get this all out to you, so you can have access to it and get as engaged and involved as you want to, and provide that information to, the students in your life, the young girls that are, interested in eclipses. This is a prime opportunity to really push STEM and push the importance of this work. Eclipses, there's some science that we can't actually even conduct except for during an eclipse, because we can't create eclipses artificially in a laboratory. So, this is a prime time to really capture that interest and that passion in somebody, young and old. But, I expect to see a lot of enthusiasts in our schools, in our scout groups, coming from this. I expect, in years to come, when folks recount how they got into heliophysics, or how, the first female that lands on the moon, one of her first, drives to become interested in astronomy, might have been her first experience with the total solar eclipse of 2024. So this is a really inspiring and exciting and great time to be alive and getting an opportunity to see one of these phenomenon. So thank you.
Wow, are y'all excited or what? I think you just knocked it out of the eclipse park, Dawn.
I'm so glad.
I know I'm super excited. We probably have time for a question or two if anyone has them. Please throw your question in the chat if you have a question. Again, we'll share out all of these resources afterwards, but I also had the experience of experiencing Totality in 2017. And it's unlike anything you've ever experienced. So figure out a way to get to that path of totality during.
Oh, absolutely.
April. It is worth it. It is worth it. And if you're in Texas, find a friend and go hang out. I'm gonna hang out in my cul-de-sac.
Get my contact information from Tricia. If you don't know where to be, if you don't know where to go, I will help you out. I mean, one of the great terms I think that came out of one of the earlier American Astronomical Society meetings was, specifically focusing on kids, was "no child left inside." And I think that goes for everyone. You don't need to be on the path of totality to experience the eclipse. It's great if you can, but just get outside and see it, because it is, I can't even put it into words. It's.
And I think what Dawn said about that whole community feel, that experience, if you experience the one that was in October, everyone's experiencing maybe not exactly the same view, but that same experience. And so there's really something quite fascinating about that. I ended up in Johnson. We went down to Kerrville for the one in October, and we ended up just watching the whole eclipse in the Ring of Fire from the little grassy area adjacent to the parking lot of the Hampton Inn that we were staying in, with people from LA and Georgia and Austin and Chicago and all over the United States that had come in, and we just hung out in the parking lot and all experienced it together and had an amazing time. So it's a great community event. please don't miss out. And again, I will share these all of this information out because
And tell people you know, even if you think they already know, because there were still people that were caught off guard in October that were like, "Hey, did you know there was an eclipse yesterday?" It's like, yes. So
and
tell
get those
everyone.
glasses. Don't wait to the last minute for those glasses. Get those glasses now. Buy a bunch for your neighbors and your friends, and I put them on my patio, and I just told people while I was in Kerrville, hey neighbors, if it's last minute and you don't have any, I left 50 on my patio, come get them. I think they're still outside. So
I love that. And connect with us
yeah.
afterwards, because we're going to be collecting glasses from all over the Hill Country and getting those in the hands of Astronomers Without Borders. And they take those glasses and then move them along to the next communities all over the world so that other people, other students, other young folks can experience it without being restricted.
That's
So,
amazing. Okay, we'll do that too. That's awesome.
So.
Well, thank you, Dawn. Thank you, everybody. My goodness, I can't believe that we are here at the end of our day. It's been fast and furious, and we've had a lot of things that have been shared. So I hope you have had a fantastic time and learned a lot. Just a reminder of a couple of things coming. You'll get added to resources. We're going to share a bunch of resources. That is what we do with the Texas Girls Collaborative Project. That is what we do with the National Girls Collaborative Project. As we share, we share, we share. We want to make sure all of this information, these resources, this great stuff is in your hands. So if you were in sessions, presenters have been sending me some things. I will share out and connect with all of our presenters to see what else they want to share out in case you went to one session, but also wanted to hear what was going on in the other breakout during the day. We also will be, I lost my little PowerPoint clicker. We also will be sending out links and participant lists for those that agreed to share. A post survey, please fill out the post survey, because that feedback is critically important as we move forward. All of those things will come to you at the beginning of next week, so be on the lookout for that. Texas Girls Collaborative Project is kind of in a state of transition as we've moved out of the University of Texas and are setting it up kind of as a standalone outside of the university setting. So there's a lot of things to kind of work through and think through, and committees and leadership and champions boards to kind of reinvigorate as we now have a plan to move forward. So if that seems like that might be something you'd be interested in, be on the lookout for that as well. Because we want to get all of that launched and heading into 2024. And then last but not least, thank you again to TextPost. I know that, oops, I went past that fast again. I know that Laura from TextPost has been in the sessions all day today. She's my partner in crime in going out and doing Million Girls Moonshot workshops across the state. We're heading to the Valley in January. We're headed to Houston in April, Lubbock in April, and then Houston in April or May. So be on the lookout for those. We'll probably be doing more of our Million Girls Moonshot workshops as we move forward as well. So with that, thank you all. I hope you had a fantastic day. I think we should call it officially the weekend. Enjoy your weekend and your beautiful day, and we'll all experience the eclipse in April. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Dawn. That was awesome.
I'm so glad. Thank you.
Got me all excited again.